Welcome to the Glacier Gamble podcast. And it's upside down. uh, we're talking Ant-Man this week because we just saw Ant-Man. We love Marvel. We want to give you a mostly spoiler-free review. We try to avoid spoilers as much as possible. I'll add any spoiler alerts if needed. But yeah, Ant-Man obviously wasn't as big of it wasn't expected to be big. I saw anywhere ranging from 80 million to 200 million projections for the opening weekend.
Yeah, I think it ended at like 224 or something like that. Is what we
Right.
saw.
So
I
it
think so,
overshot expectations, in my opinion.
which is not bad. Yeah,
Yeah. But we weren't expecting it to be, we're not expecting, I think, like
Doctor
Into the Spider
Strange
Verse, Doctor
numbers or No Way
Strange,
Home numbers
No Way
or
Home.
Avatar numbers, right?
Exactly. So we weren't expecting that, but I think it did really well.
Right.
And I have some thoughts as well. I
Okay.
did think it was a good movie. I do
Right.
like Ant-Man, like
Right.
all the trilogy as a whole. Um, I thought it started out extremely like I got annoyed a little bit at
Sure.
how long it took them to introduce Kang.
Right.
We all know Kang's in it. That's not a spoiler.
Right.
But they keep making references to him,
Right.
he
Yep.
when he gets here, when you'll want
Right.
to meet him.
Right.
They
He
got to
has
a
his
point.
eyes on you. He already
Yeah,
knows you're here. There, he's already tracking them.
yeah. It got
Martha.
to a point
Yeah.
where I was like, if they mention him without actually saying his name one more time, I'm gonna get really pissed. Like
Right.
it
Right.
just I don't know if they were trying to build suspense because I know they're saying they want Kang to be Thanos level villain.
Sure.
But I don't know if they were trying to build suspense or if it was just one of those we need to make this movie a little longer. Is I don't know the reasoning for it, but it was a little over the top.
They did, yeah, I agree with that. They did drag a lot of aspects of the movie out, probably longer than they should have, which caused like some annoyance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the same time, like if that's the direction of the script and the plot, then that's what they're gonna do, you know. So yeah, I there was a lot of like annoyances in regards to like Janet Van Dyne not wanting to like talk about her time down there. Like, you know what I mean? Like she didn't
That was so I was
like
oh my gosh.
that was one of the like annoying things for me. Like when you've seen Janet Van Dyne, when they get her back in Ant-Man and the Wasp, like she doesn't want to talk about her time there. And like that continues. And
Right.
so
And she
that's
still won't, and there's multiple moments where she says they still need to wait,
right.
and
Yeah.
there's no reason for them to
Right.
wait.
Yeah. Like her withholding that information is almost a detriment to them. Like you
Says keep
have
your voices down, and then in the next sentence is her just yelling back to them behind her as well.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So
So I had
um
some grievances with the
yeah.
movie.
Yeah. No, I did too. I don't think there was many lessons learned for
Yeah,
the
I don't think so either.
from the main characters standpoint. There wasn't like, oh, like this is our problem.
It was
Should be
basically telling
like
Scott to practice what he preaches. He wrote his book, Look Out for the Little Guy.
right. Which you
Um,
can buy somewhere. There's a you
I
can
pre
buy the
I
book.
pre-ordered it.
Nice.
I pre-ordered it on Amazon. Um, Not a sponsor. uh, but I think the main lesson was just him learning to basically what Cassie says to him, which is now that he saved the world, that doesn't mean he can just stop doing
Helping
good.
people. Sure.
And it was just, I think the whole lesson was everybody needs to keep trying. And so it's like you don't really
Right.
it's not a super deep lesson. It's very general. It's an introduction to a villain. The post-credit scenes make it unfortunately falls into the category of movie where the post-credit scenes kind of stole the whole show.
Right. Right.
Because
I mean, yeah, they're very
they're very
if you pay
telling.
attention to the details in those scenes, like there's one thing I don't want to like spoil it, but I'll tell you after the fact. Like, there's a callback to like Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, Just like, you know, with Reed Richards, as many of you know, that Nathaniel Richards is Kang. It's a
Hmm.
descendant of Reed Richards, like a far off descendant of Reed Richards. So yeah, there's a similarity between them in those post credit scenes. So um, or in one or two of the post credit scenes. There's two post credit scenes, so
There
make sure you
are,
stick
yep.
around for both if you haven't seen it.
But I want let's talk about what was good about the movie. I thought it brought humor back to the MCU into
Right,
what was kind of missing, into humor that doesn't feel cheeky the whole time. It's like
right,
humor that actually fits the scene. I
right.
think there was one or two times where I would say it was like, meh. But for the most
Right.
part, it was like
Yeah,
well placed humor.
I think for the most part, Thor: Love and Thunder had a lot of like forced humor.
Hmm.
That's not really like, I feel like that's not necessarily Thor's character, whereas like they kind of dumb Thor down a little bit,
Yeah.
which is kind of annoying. Whereas the humor can come from just Korg. Like Korg is all the funny you need, really.
Yep.
Um, and so maybe Valkyrie's sassy a bit. So whereas in Ant-Man, like Scott Lang is Paul Rudd has been doing comedies his entire life. Like he's
Yeah.
just very much has that thing. And there was some, like you said, there was some that feel like cheeky, I think you just said. There was
Hmm.
some humor that was like, eh. But then
Yep.
there was other ones that I was like, all right, like that fits in this world.
The one of the biggest positives of the movie to me was Katie M. O'Brien. She's the one who plays Gentora.
Sure.
I think she stole most scenes that she was in just because her character was like just cool, just kind of just
Right.
badass overall.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what, yeah, Cassie
And
thinks
they
so
kind
too.
of mentioned that in the movie.
Right.
There's a point where Gentora fights somebody off, and then Cassie says like, "You're so cool."
Right. Right. Yeah.
She was just very cool, and I really thought she was from Mandalorian. I recognized her. I didn't remember where that's from
Sure.
where, but and other than that, like this is kind of the biggest thing she's ever been in, and I think we're gonna see more because I think she did really really well.
Sure. Yeah. I like the
Um,
whole little quantumania group down at the quantum realm group.
I do too.
Quaz as well, or Quaz or Quez, whatever you. William Jackson Harper.
Yeah, yep. William Jackson Harper was another one. He paired perfect with Paul Rudd. I think William Jackson
Yeah.
Harper and Paul Rudd,
Yeah.
they're back and forth, especially when it
Right.
was like with the mind reading thing.
Right.
That's just what I expect both of them to. That's if you watch The Good Place, that's what William Jackson Harper did really well as
Right.
Chidi. If you watch just Paul Rudd in most things, it's
Right.
quick response humor that is genuinely funny and works in the situation. And it just was that back and forth. I thought that
Right.
was like a perfect pairing. I
And
know
then
he's not
Veb.
Mr. Fantastic, but I'm happy
Right.
with what he was
Yeah. And
here.
then Veb. I think his name was Veb, the little
Yeah,
goo.
the good dude.
Yeah, the goo dude. Yeah, he was funny too.
I figured
So
he would probably be a fan favorite, like especially people that aren't super into superheroes or people that are
right,
just jumping in now at Ant-Man. I think those people would like Veb because he's just, I have holes.
right.
And
I have hearts.
yeah, and then
Yeah,
like not cheat Mike
yeah.
William Jackson Harper's like
Quest.
it's like I didn't know he could do that. Like I just
Right,
that delivery, it was just I don't know,
right.
it was all really good. I think that was great for fans of like not big superhero fans. I think
Sure,
that keeps them interested as those
sure,
characters, and I thought they were perfectly played. Like they were high quality, and I think
sure.
the visuals were really good. There were a couple points. There was in the end scene. There's in the like final scenes. There's a point where Cassie is running through buildings and stuff. Um, that's the one part. There was a couple points where the visuals, I was like, that was very obviously just poorly smoothed effects of somebody
Sure.
jumping. It was like there was probably one or two times that time jumps out at me because it was like blatantly bad, where it's like, ooh,
Right,
that could have been a video game.
right,
But other than that, the rest of it, especially the whole quantum realm, how everything looked, the core, Kang's core, all of it,
yeah.
from how they decided to display Kang's powers, I think all of it
Oh yeah, 100%.
um, was just tremendous individuals. When they're in that scene, when they are inside the core,
Right,
which sorry for spoilers here. I will
Right.
put one there, but like
Nobody, if we're saying that right now and they haven't seen the movie, they have zero idea what we're talking about. So,
exactly.
right.
When they're inside that and they start losing their mind,
Right.
or we start seeing the probability come up.
Yeah, I love that. I love
think
that
that scene
aspect.
is like award-winning level
Yeah.
awesome. I
Yeah.
thought that scene was perfectly just when he said lose his mind, that is not when I thought, and it was way better than anything I could have expected.
Right.
And the message it was sent eventually became like a cheesy message, a lesson learned amongst all the Scots. But I don't know. Even outside of that, I thought it was a perfect scene.
We are
loved it.
currently in the multiverse saga, and that directly is impacted by a multiverse aspect.
So because of that scene, while we're talking about it, there was a question I wanted to ask you because I knew we'd eventually talk about that scene.
Sure.
Do you think that was a Nexus point?
A Nexus event?
A Nexus event. Because look at all those different Ant-Man that showed up to the same point.
That's a good question. Like in regards to, like, say Tony Stark dying is a Nexus event. Like
right.
that or in the universe of What If, what's her name? The girl that got married, Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange's partner,
yeah.
yes.
Not Catherine.
I want to say Cassie because of Ant-Man.
No, okay.
But we know who you're talking about.
Right, yeah. So that's a Nexus event too. Like no matter what he tries, he can't fix that event from happening. That's a good question. I wonder.
Or was it just those probabilities showed up because of where they happened to be? Like, would that happen with anybody that was there, or was that genuinely all of them arriving there?
In a bunch of different. That's a good question because I don't know if it directly. If all of those Ant-Mans were in that same quantum area, or if it's just pulling the possibilities of what he, like, it's him. It's still him, but like it would be him in this universe that shows, like, that's the probability rather than a different person meeting him. It's just like him.
Yeah,
it's very confusing. But
I think the hard part is the fact that they refer to him as the real one. So is he?
This is the sacred timeline. So this is technically he is the real one,
right? So were they all split off from him, or were they from their own places? Like that's.
I think they. Well, I think they both. I think they are different hymns. They are obviously different hymns from different universes.
He thinks he's him, dude.
Right? He ain't him. He ain't him. Yeah, I think it's different Scott Langs from different universes. But it's like he's seeing that possibility.
Okay.
And that is the Scott Lang that's showing up. So there's a lot of Ant-Mans.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of Ant-Mans. There's the one that's just Scott Lang.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like that one was evident too. So I don't necessarily think it's a Nexus event because I don't think the egg. I don't know. I don't think without ruining it. I don't think so.
Okay, so my original thought was no, most likely no.
Right.
Like even though it was massive, didn't feel even big enough to be a Nexus event.
Right.
I mean, he does save the quantum.
An absolute point in time.
Right.
An absolute point in time. Sure.
Which quantum realm's outside of of space and time. So then no, it wouldn't be a Nexus event.
Right. Okay.
Okay, there. We solved it. We solved it.
Right.
So while we're talking about like our favorite like points of the movie, I also love the fact that nobody felt like a hero. Like nobody felt like the singular. Like Ant-Man to me didn't feel like if it was like you were the only reason why this worked. I thought Cassie made a point, like a couple points where she felt like she was the one making it work. Sure. I thought Wasp was making it work. I thought that there was points where Hank Pym felt like the hero. I think there was not a single point where Janet really felt redeemable until like the very end.
There was a lot of the one issue I had was across all the characters. Like you could say the villains, the the heroes we're used to, like our group of five, if you want to say like that's the main five, and then even like the quantum people. I think the one issue I did have with the movie is that their power like levels were inconsistent the entire movie. Like
Yeah.
I think Wasp could have taken over this and the entire like Wasp could have just taken over.
Hmm.
Like and so like
This was one
the
of those
power level
moments
was
I was
very
hoping they would.
inconsistent. It's just
I
very
agree.
inconsistent.
I think
Like
this was one of those times
from
I thought they would bring the
Kang,
Wasp from the comic books. Like she's so strong from the comics.
right,
Some of the things that she can do, like her cyclone. Like
right,
I
yeah,
feel like this was that movie, especially when we saw like the fight, one of the fight scenes.
right,
I thought she was gonna take over, and when at the time I thought she was gonna take over, she seemed weak. So I
yeah,
agree. Like, why do you seem so powerful at some points? Like
right,
at some points, her blasters can knock back Kang,
right,
but other points her blasters can't stop just a foot soldier.
right, yeah. No, I just from like top to bottom, I thought the power levels were very inconsistent.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I loved the story between Cassie and Scott. I just don't necessarily know. Um, I don't know. I guess we got to see more of her, but this is the fourth Cassie we've seen.
right,
Is it fourth time's the charm? Is it not?
right.
Because I thought she was fine, didn't blow me away.
I think she's gonna fit better in like her age group. Like you put
Like
her
with
with
Hawk, with
Hawkeye. Yeah, you
yeah,
put her with Hawkeye. You put her with
Miss
Kamala.
Marvel,
Yep.
yeah.
You put her with. I think she'll fit better with them.
And she has that humor that they're
Yeah.
leaning into. She
Right.
is the same like Haley Steinfeld.
Right.
I think Haley Steinfeld's delivery is
Kamala's
better,
got it.
but
Kamala's got
Kamala's
it
got it
too.
as well.
Uh,
Like I think they all have that quick-witted humor, and it's like just
sure.
short responses.
Right.
She did the same thing in Detective Pikachu when she was in that movie.
Right.
Same quick delivered lines. So
Sure.
I do think she played what they're looking for well, but it wasn't necessarily anything that blew me
I mean,
away.
yeah.
But I
She
don't
was
think her character's supposed
introduced.
to blow you away right now.
Right. She was introduced here to probably fit into one of those teams, into a Young Avengers team. So, um, yeah, no,
Isn't she
I
supposed
didn't
to
really
eventually get wings too, or no?
no, but she's known as stature, so I think
Right.
she's more like she hits the like Goliath. She goes big a lot. She might get wings. Might be like a combination of both, but
Okay.
yeah.
Maybe there's
Let
probably comics of her with them
right,
and
right.
without comics.
So
Try everything.
let's talk about the most critical, controversial thing in this movie that I've seen, and that's M.O.D.O.K.
Okay, yeah.
Because
So I wanted to. We saw that he was brought in. So for those
right,
of you, that's not a
yeah,
spoiler. The M.O.D.O.K's in it.
not even a
I
spoiler
thought
who it is, because like there's stills from the trailer that show it's
Darren
Darren Cross,
Cross.
right? So
I think with the character that they created here, this version of M.O.D.O.K, I think it was very well executed,
it makes
but
sense,
such a waste of M.O.D.O.K.
right?
I know we have multiverses. I know we have all this like different timelines, everything. So to start asking for different versions of heroes and characters just because you didn't like one in a movie, like, oh, I really don't like Stature here, we should recast, or say come bring it in from another multiverse. Oh, I don't
Right,
like insert any character, Miss
right,
Marvel, let's get another one, or let's.
right,
I think it's I think starting to ask, but the idea of this being what the MCU puts out for M.O.D.O.K, I think again, really well executed. I think a waste of M.O.D.O.K as a character.
sure,
Has
yeah,
nothing to do with AIM, had nothing to do with
yeah.
like the character's name isn't even the
George
same.
Tarleton, yeah, George Tarleton.
It's I think the suit, the like the CGI, I think everything, the weaponry,
Yeah, the
all of
weaponry
it,
was awesome,
it was
and I
all
didn't mind the
awesome.
mask either. Like I thought the mask was cool, menacing.
Yep, I thought the
Uh,
mask was sweet.
and yeah, the weaponry where it just goes like, and then all of a sudden there's giant like cannon blasters. Like that's sick. But also like the inconsistency of his power level. Like he could
running,
have
blowing up a building.
He should have destroyed Cassie Lang. Like,
Yeah.
there's no like, and he should have destroyed Ant-Man. He should
The
have been able
only
to
thing you
destroy
can
the
say is
people.
that he was holding back because he wasn't truly a dick.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
That
But
like the only argument you can make is he was holding back because he wasn't a dick. Because when they introduce him as a certain, they give him a title, and
mechanized organism designed only for killing.
the hunter. They call him the
Oh, yeah.
hunter.
The hunter. Yeah.
And he's like they build him up as like this lethal machine. He shows up, he blows up like a building, and just by flying through it.
All right.
And then later he can't chase Cassie down when she's small and can't run fast.
Yeah. Like the blast from his weaponry doesn't that wouldn't, I don't know. The inconsistency in power levels throughout everyone.
Yeah.
Was like, yeah.
And
so,
even Kang.
Kang, yeah.
In the last fight, I'm like, he didn't put up a fight.
Yeah. No, he
should have. They show him showing off power and killing people, and it still doesn't feel like he really did anything. He was just too easy.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be the conqueror. He should have been ruthless.
Right.
And I think when he was like getting overwhelmed, I think all those people should have died in one just.
Oh yeah. No, he should have messed a lot of people up.
Yep.
But the power level was inconsistent. And he decided he wanted to use the full extent of his power on like 10 people and then just not stop. Just stop for the rest of it.
Yep. So and he's like, I'm getting tired. I'm gonna hold back.
Right.
And then Ant-Man tries to fist fight him when he has he's been doing so much practicing for Creed. Does he really think he's gonna beat that?
Exactly.
I don't know what he was thinking there.
Yeah.
Like he clearly was looking forward to not having to use his powers because he was like, I've been practicing to fight Michael B. Jordan.
Right. Yeah.
But there was times where it's like, yeah, that's the Kang. That's Kang. This is what everybody's gonna be terrified of. And then all of a sudden it's like,
this guy's getting his ass whooped. What's going on?
By bugs.
Yeah. Bug man.
So yeah, there's some points there's some characters just kind of spoiler, kind of not. They introduce them, and when you introduce them, you go, they're only introducing this person to kill him.
Right.
Like this person's gonna die. Bill Murray was in this movie. We knew he was casted. We didn't know what necessarily his role would be. I thought his role ended up being about what I would expect out of a Bill Murray role.
Yeah.
Wasn't fantastic, wasn't terrible.
Right.
And he just felt like he was playing Bill Murray.
Another Janet thing.
Janet thing.
Another Janet thing that was not explained at all, ever. So
nope.
Yeah.
They didn't explain it at all when they should have. So yeah, Janet was probably the most frustrating part of the movie overall, but yeah, I don't know. From a totality standpoint, introduction of Kang, continuation of Ant-Man. After the post-credit scenes, instead of saying Ant-Man will return, they said Kang will return because they wanted to show you like he's the next big bad. Right. In terms of like introducing and doing all that, taking out the post-credit scenes. Do you think the movie? What do you think the movie is? How do you think it was?
I mean, I try to take all the positives I can from movies. I know we've kind of talked about some of the negatives we had on it. But like overall, like I think it's a great start to Phase 5. I felt like there will, just from what we know about Kang in general, that what He Who Remains explained is that there's a bunch of Kangs. There's a bunch of Kangs.
Council of Kangs, just like in the comics.
Right. There's a bunch of Kangs. They're all trying to fight for control of the multiverse.
And that was talked about in Loki. It was
that was talked about in Loki. Yeah, He Who Remains explained that. And he just used 3 different universes in his example, in He Who Remains example. But there's a large scale. Let's just say there's a large scale
I
to
hope you
these.
like Jonathan Majors.
Yeah, you're gonna see a lot of him.
You're not only going to see a lot, you're going to see his acting talents stretched.
Stretched. Yeah,
He is so good. If you follow us on Twitter,
yeah. He was
I
probably
have
the
made
brightest
multiple
point.
comments on him.
Yeah, he's the
He's
brightest point. The way he talked was very sophisticated as this Kang, like this very sophisticated and thought out. And then there was a lot of moments where it was like terrifying because like he was like, I'm not
he was calm and confident in times where you felt like nobody should be.
right.
That's
And
what's
then
so
yeah,
terrifying. And like very
yeah,
Negan-esque,
yeah,
very I am calm and ready. I know I can kill you at any moment,
right.
so I don't feel fear.
We know that too, but we know we can kill anybody at any moment, but
Right.
doesn't necessarily happen. But anyway,
Yeah.
but no,
Right.
I'm very I was going into it. I was going into the movie to see Kang. Really, like Kang was the part I wanted to see the most.
Yep.
Um,
I think that's
and
a
then
very common. I think that's how most people feel.
and so I think it's if you're comparing this to Phase 4, which a lot of people will, I think it is a 100% increase to the start of Phase 5 than Phase 4. Like to start up Phase 4 off with Black Widow as the first movie, and then starting this off with Antman and the Wasp Quantumania, it's night and day
Yeah.
difference.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, so
I think if I were to give it 1 out of 10, one through 10, sorry.
sure.
1 out of 10. No.
Right.
1 to 10 out of 10. I feel like it floats around that Multiverse of Madness felt for me, where it was like I think Multiverse of Madness I gave like a 6 or 6.5. This I feel like I would give it like a 7, 7.5.
Sure.
Probably
I
closer to that 7.
I would have given it a 6.5, I think. And that's not saying it's bad by any means because um it's I mean like what is an average movie? 5? So like it's better than average for
I
sure.
think
Like
the
it's
average score for like movie scores for 2022 was something like 7.2.
sure. I'd give it a 6.5. 6.5 to 7 in that 0.5 range. So I mean, yeah. I had some issues with it, but overall I enjoyed it. I enjoyed
Okay.
it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I would watch it again. I would watch it. I do think it's one of those movies that is much better and it's going to be better in theaters. If you have a
Yeah.
large screen at home, that's the whatever your biggest TV screen is at home or biggest screen if you don't have a TV, biggest screen. If you can watch it on that, you'll appreciate it more. It's a good movie without the visuals, but with those added, like if I were to see it again, I would want to see it in like IMAX because I feel
Right.
like
Yeah,
it
why don't you tell
was.
people what happened when we went to go see it on the monster
Oh
screen?
yeah,
Yeah.
because when we went to go see it, the theater when we got there, they didn't. So we pre-ordered tickets ahead of time. Didn't get any notification that tickets wouldn't be good or whatever. Got there and there was no one in the parking. I was like, Ant-Man opening weekend
Right. What's going
on a
on? Monster
Saturday.
screen showing at 4 p.m. Like
Yeah,
what's
like on the big So
yeah.
we go in there. Power is out in the whole theater. The
Yeah.
whole theater, which we
Right.
should have started this with this, by the way. Like
Yeah.
the power goes out in the whole theater, and then they tell us they give us vouchers that are good, not even good forever. They expire. So if you didn't go by the time these vouchers are out, you paid them to not see a movie.
Right.
Yeah, we get
Yeah,
there
little
and they say the
love.
power's out. They could come back tonight if the power's back. They didn't know if it would be, but they
Right.
acted like they thought it would be, or go to a different theater a ways away where they'll
Right.
also
Half an
take
hour
that
away.
voucher.
Right. But you don't
Um,
know if that theater's full, if they
yeah. So
yeah.
we just looked for the nearest theater that had like a good, like the soonest show time, and we ended up at just a terrible theater.
Yeah, really bad. But we were one of the like 7 people in the entire theater.
All
So
right, and there was points during the movie where you could hear another movie during it, like you could hear the other movies going on.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So
I don't know if I'll ever go back there.
yeah, it's
That was like
rough.
emergency only.
Yeah.
Oh god, yeah, that was rough. But so outside the theater didn't help. Obviously, that could affect your opinion on a movie. I know that my seat was extremely uncomfortable.
Right.
Felt like I was sitting in on the bleacher.
Yeah.
So like that sort of thing can affect you, but I don't think it really truly affected my opinion of the movie that much. I think the pace of the movie, the choices that they went with certain characters is why I couldn't really go above a 7.
Sure.
That would be like the overall my problem with it.
Sure.
Because the pace that they did kind of takes away from the villain. The villain is
Yeah.
the most important thing pretty much in this movie.
Right.
So because they took away from the villain, it becomes a like father-daughter story.
Right.
I love that Wasp comes in and like does that her at the end, another point where she feels like the hero. Like I don't know, they made Kang not what I expected his first thing to be. Like I said,
Right.
there's moments I feel like he should have killed more people.
Oh yeah, 100%. The
Just
power
because.
yeah, but my issue is the power inconsistencies. And then the lack of not the lack of withheld information.
Yeah. It,
Those are
which
my two issues with it.
slowed the movie down so
Right.
hard because they kept holding it back.
Right.
It just
What do we need to worry about? Trust me.
Yeah. Yep. They yep. So just because of that, it just when it's bad enough where it's noticeable as you're watching
Right.
is when I tend to look less. Felt the same in Multiverse of Madness. I was like, this is bad. Like as I'm watching it, I feel bad.
Right. Right.
When I was watching, there's a couple moments where I was like,
Right.
can you please just tell us, Janet?
Right.
Can you please just use his name, Kang? Like,
Right.
it just that delay, basically my biggest fault with the movie. Outside of that, acting was great. Side supporting characters if this was a sports roster, this was very deep. The supporting characters all were great. Yeah. I think all the quantum people, all the way down to just like side characters when they come back or when they like are on Earth. All of them were really, really good. Do you have anything else to add? Overall, we get a 6.5, 7.
Yeah, I'm just gonna 6.5, 7. I think that's a good range. For all you people that are gonna go check it out, make sure you watch the end of Loki, the Loki finale, just to kind of get a little introduction to like what Kang is really doing. He Who Remains, a Kang variant himself, explains it really good. And it's just nice to see that information because it'll come full circle. So
Ant-Man 1, Ant-Man 2, Endgame, and Loki. If you see all of those before this, you'll have the most background story. I don't think that amount of backstory is needed. I think agreed. As long as you just watch the finale of Loki, you'd be good.
Yeah.
All right. I like it. Everybody, you all look great. I'm going to try to get this out. G.
My heart looks so messed up. I can't get it. It's like kind of like a nutsack almost.
Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'ma make hella sure that I don't become you. Have no regrets, yeah, I'm tired of my chest.